Yeah, it's your boy Girl here, back with another video, and today I got a special video go out today. Today we're going to be, I don't know why we're doing that so fast, but I'll be butchering up every single time. But yeah, today we're going to be making a guide. Now, I did drop a community post asking like what guides you guys want me to make or even update, and the two most requested ones was equipment guide. They want me to do an update equipment guide, and then one that I have never done before is a team building guide for new players and everything, which is actually pretty, which makes sense. I never made a guide for it, and there's a lot of new players in the game that's kind of confused about team building and stuff like that. So I'm going to be calling this the ultimate team building guide. I'm going to be breaking down things from character tags, Z abilities, Zenkai abilities, leader slot, equipments, base equipments versus pure equips, full color wheel setup, and then like a Zenkai buff setup and everything. So if you guys are a beginning, I think this video is going to help you guys a lot. And even if you guys are OG, if you guys want to support and watch the video, go ahead, appreciate it. But this is really for the new players, right? So yeah, without further ado, let's get on with the DBL team building guide. If you guys also like watch the video and still have questions about certain things that I probably talked about that you're still confused on, comment down below. Me and my community will definitely try to help you out to understand like the problem that you're having, that you're like curious about, that you're questioning about, and make things a lot more clear and everything. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on with the video. So looking at my little table of contents, first we're going to talk about a character's tag. So for a team, right, any unit that you pretty much go around, like there's some units that don't have any tags, but say for example any unit, basically, like say for example like this Cryohan Goku, we call him Cryohan or Kid Gohan, right? You go to the show details, each unit basically has tags that they can be random. Based off the tags, you can kind of form different teams around that certain tag. So for example, Kid Gohan has Hybrid Saiyans, Sun Family, Kids tag, regeneration tag because of Piccolo. Piccolo's assist of him, so that's why he's part of regeneration tag, because Piccolo is part of the card. That's why. Namekian because Piccolo, like I said, and then Super Warrior because of Piccolo. I think it's because of Piccolo. That's why this Gohan is considered a Super Warrior. So yeah, this is basically a character tag, and around the character tags, you can kind of like form different teams. Like you could put them on this Gohan on a hybrid team. You can put them on a Sun Family team. You can put them on a regeneration team, right? But not every character tag has Z abilities around that team. Like for example, Kids tag. You don't really see a lot of Z abilities. You don't even see any Z ability that buffs Kids tags, right? But the fact that he has 6 of these tags, and there's only like 4 tags that really has Z abilities on it, it kind of like makes or break a unit. So just because they have like a ton of tags, that doesn't mean that there's an optimal team for that, because there's certain tags that actually have Z abilities, so you can actually kind of like correlate them all together and everything. So that's kind of like my breakdown with character tags, right? Just because they have like a ton of tags, that doesn't mean that each tag has like a Z abilities to buff that tag. For example, like Kids, they don't really have any. Namekians, they don't really have any. But Hybrids, Sun Family, Regeneration, Super Warriors, they do have Z abilities about that. And that's going to be the next topic that I talk about, is Z abilities. Z abilities is basically kind of like the building block for building a team, right? So every unit has a ability. So you go to the units kit and everything, and you see how it has like main ability, Z ability, unique ability. We're only going to focus on Z ability. So you click on Z ability here. This certain unit, Kid Gohan, buffs Episode Saiyan Saga, Z, Sun Family, and Tag Regeneration. So those are the 3 teams that he buffs with his Z ability. So with that knowledge, with that like information, that's how you can build Gohan around those 3 teams. Those 3 tags or 3 like teams around those Episode Saiyan Saga, Sun Family, and Regeneration. So that's basically what Z ability is and everything. And it is really, really important for you to Z power your units to higher stars. So you guys see like my unit, my Gohan is 14 stars. So that means he's going to have the max amount of Z ability, right? Because he does 35% to either, if he's placed on the Saiyan Saga team, Sun Family team, or Regeneration team, he gives those other unit that has one of these tags base blast attack and defense by 35%. Now, if you do rock Gohan on like a team like Kids Tag, right? No, scratch that. So scratch what I just said about the Kids Tag thing. But yeah, like that's basically how you do a building block for a team, is based off Z abilities. Now there's different types of Z abilities in the game. There's Z abilities that helps with attack Z abilities. There is one that helps with defensive Z abilities, and there's one that does HP Z abilities, right? Those are like the main three. There's also different ones that buff like special move damage and reduction the special arch cost and everything. But those are the main three ones that buffs attacks, defense, and Z abilities. They're different. There's two different types of attacks in the game: blast attack and strike attack. There's also defense, blast defense, strike defense, and then there's HP, which you guys know what HP means. Gives you a lot more health and everything. So with this Gohan, he does 35 to base, blast attack, and defense for these three tags and everything. And if you want to increase it, you have to focus on Z power and get him to certain star levels so he can increase his Z ability number. Because if you increase that number, that means your team is going to probably do more attack, more like tank better, or even have more health throughout the when you face in PvP. Is because of those things. So yeah, just to break that down about Z abilities. Now there's also another thing called Zenkai abilities. Now not every unit in the game has a Zenkai ability. What Zenkai abilities are is basically, do you guys see with Piccolo? You guys see a Piccolo and Purple 21. You guys see that little golden border and has like the little 7 thing right there? Those two units are considered Zenkais. Now, like I said, not every single unit is a Zenkai, because the devs basically have to choose which unit that they feel like a unit deserves to get a Zenkai. Basically is when they take an old unit that's not really viable anymore and they kind of give them like a upgrade, like they're kind of like a new model of them, like make them a lot better, right? Kind of like, saying kind of like just a upgrade into their kit. Like say for example, like this is an old unit, and they would, like for example, this Pan is an old unit, right? They could give her a Zenkai ability and make her and update her kit to make it better for her to compete in today's meta than when she first came out. So for example, Piccolo, let's take a look at Piccolo and his Zenkai abilities. So Zenkai abilities is basically just amplifying them even stronger, right? It's the same thing as a Z ability, but it's a lot more specific in what they buff. So you guys see, for example, Piccolo, he does 35 to read, like I said, tag regeneration or Saiyan Saga. Those are the two teams that he two tags or two teams that he buffs with his Z ability. But if you look at his Zenkai ability, he gives extra stat to element yellow and tag regeneration. So what that means is, if you are rocking him on regeneration, for example, and you have another unit that is a yellow regeneration, they're going to get these extra stats. The extra 35 to both strike and blast attack, and then the extra 40 to both strike and blast defense. So he's not gonna be able to give this to, say for example, a green regen unit or a blue regen unit or a purple regen unit or a red regen unit, because they have to be both a yellow and a regeneration type, because that's just how it is. So it kind of makes up for like different team building ideas, and I kind of like can break down 2 different team ideas towards the end of the video and everything. But that are what Zenkai abilities are. They're basically the same thing as Z abilities, but it's a lot more specific on certain colors and tags. So if you have like another yellow regen unit, you might want to add them on the team so that the other yellow regen unit will get this extra boost as well. This also applies to Piccolo itself, because Piccolo is also a yellow regen, but it also can apply to other yellow regen members as well. So you rock them on a regen team and you have like a yellow, like that yellow regen member, that other one is getting their own Z ability plus Piccolo's Z ability, because he also buffs regeneration. And then that other yellow regen unit is also gonna get Piccolo's Zenkai ability, because that yellow regen member qualifies for these for this extra Zenkai ability that Piccolo provides and everything. So it kind of makes for interesting team building ideas and everything. So hopefully I broke down Zenkai abilities like as good as possible. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, just comment down below. I'll try to be more specific and everything, but it's just kind of like a run through, right? So next is the leader slot thing. Now the leader slot thing is a very, very interesting mechanic that they brought into the game, and it basically all the stuff that I kind of talked about, where you want to pair it with a unit that has the same tags around it, kind of like nullifies all that like aspect and everything. So what do you mean by that? So I'm gonna give you an example right here. So we're gonna go here. We're gonna go to this team right here. It's basically the same region team that I just showed you guys. It's the exact same region team as this right here. But instead of having Kid Gohan, I replaced Kid Gohan and I put Gogeta 4. So we look at Gogeta 4 tags, right? Gogeta 4 has Saiyan, Super Saiyan 4, Fusion Warriors, GT, and Fusion. So this unit right here does not have anything, has no correlations with region. Does not have no correlations at all, right? Now what the leader slot is, you guys see in the little formation thing, you guys see the left of Gogeta. That slot, that first slot right there is called the leader slot. Now what the leader slot does is basically any unit that's on the leader slot can get the buffs from their other allies' Z abilities, and that unit that is the leader slot, their Z abilities apply to their allies as well. But it only for it to work is that you have to bring that unit to PvP. So for example, Gogeta 4. Take a look at Gogeta 4's Z ability, right? He buffs GT, Fusion Warriors, and Saiyans 30% to strike and blast defense, right? He does not buff region at all in his Z ability. He doesn't even have the tag regeneration, right? But say for example, I bring him into the match. Say, you know, when we play PvP, you can only bring 3 members, right? 3 active members into the PvP match, right? So the only way for Gogeta 4 Z ability to work for the other regeneration members is he has to be brought into battle. So there, for example, I bring Gogeta 4, Blue Kid Buu, and Yellow Piccolo. His Z ability will apply to Kid Buu and Piccolo, and then Piccolo and Kid Buu and all the other people that's on the bench, their Z ability will apply to Gogeta 4. That's the only time that the leader slot will work for Gogeta 4. If, for example, you have Gogeta 4 as leader slot, but in a PvP match you bring like Kid Buu, Yellow Piccolo, and Perfect Form Cell, they're not gonna be able to get Gogeta 4's Z ability because he is not brought into the match. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. What you want to do with units that's on the leader slot is you want to have units that you know that you're going to bring in pretty much every single time you face in a PvP match if they don't fit that tag, for example. So if I'm bringing Gogeta 4 as leader slot, that means that like 9 out of 10 times I'm going to bring them into a PvP match every single time, because if you don't bring him, then you're wasting that slot for like a regular region unit that you're missing out on that can buff the other 5 region units that's on your team. So leader slot is tricky, right? You can kind of like, you know, have someone else on there, like I said, like that doesn't fit the tag, but if you don't bring them in the match, their Z ability just is gone to waste. So when you have a unit on the leader slot, you want to have them, and they don't fit that tag, you want to have them you want to bring them pretty much in every single time in PvP, because every time you don't, you're actually hurting the team. So yeah, that's basically it with the leader slot. It's tricky, but it kind of gives you a little bit of some like freedom to build. Like say for example, you're trying to build a region team and you don't have a strong green, right? Like you're like, all right, I have a strong blue, I have a strong yellow, I have a strong red, I have a strong purple, but I don't have no strong green region units. And you can bring like a really powerful green unit from another tag and put them on the leader slot, and that's how you can kind of like fix that problem in a sense, you feel me? So like I said, the only time that it doesn't work is when that leader slot unit is not in PvP. Their Z abilities will not be able to go to the other members and everything. So hopefully I explained the Z ability thing. I mean the leader slot thing. Like I said, that's a very confusing topic. So I would definitely understand if you guys ask more questions about it, because it definitely is confusing. So yeah, I broke down the leader slot. Now the next thing I want to break down is equipment. Equipment is also pretty something that's, you know, it's a topic that people kind of sleeps on in terms of team building, because, you know, having the optimal equipment can really make or break a unit. Just because, say for example, me and someone else have the same stars as like LF Piccolo, right? depending on what equipment I have and what equipment that person has can definitely show the difference on how much better my Piccolo can be compared to his Piccolo. So you go to equipments, man. So basically equipments, what they do is they basically just give you extra like Z abilities. You guys check out there, they have stuff like extra base strike defense, extra, blast attack, extra special move damage, little stuff like that. So it just makes your units even stronger. And like I said, you can focus on equipment that focuses on more attack or more defense or more health to tank better and stuff like that. So in terms of equipment, this is very, very important because you can basically just make your units even stronger. Now, there's really kind of like two different types of equipments that's in the game. That's kind of like there's other equipment, but there's really two main ones that we want to break down for you guys. You might have one that's called a base equipment and then a pure equipment. Now, what are the differences? A base equipment is basically, for example, we take a look at Piccolo's. No, let's actually take a look at Cell. Let's take a look at Cell. And let's take a look at this first equipment. You guys see that slot 1 and slot 2 are base strike attack, right? You guys see that. Then you have equipment like this one that does slot 3 that says 2 strike attack per regeneration tag member. That is considered a pure equipment. Now the question is, what is the difference between the two? A base equipment is basically kind of like the Z abilities that I mentioned, the Zenkai abilities that I mentioned, and basically like that. Those are kind of like the same thing, that base strike attack. Now the pure is something completely different, right? So think of the base, like I said, for the Zenkai abilities, you saw how we did like the base 35 to strike attack and everything from the Piccolo's thing. And the Zenkai abilities like 30% to strike attack or defense, right? And even this slot 1 for this equipment is all the same thing. Think of it as like an addition. Think about like base is like adding, and then think of this pure equip like a multiplier, right? So you kind of want to have very, very high base, and you kind of want to have a little bit of a pure, so that person's strike attack that you're trying, like anything that you're trying to optimize on that unit, that specific unit. It could be their strike attack, it could be their blast attack, it could be their blast defense, it could be their strike defense. Blast defense, strike attack, or blast attack. Anything that you're trying to prioritize, you want to have a high base number, and you want to have a little bit of them pure, because then it will make them hit harder. You need to have both. You can't have a ton of pure and low base, because that means that high pure is not going to really amplify as much. You also don't want to have too much. You don't want to have too much base, because that means that there's actually a cap on how much, like the limit of a base number that you can focus on. So say for example, like a base, like the base cap is like 300 for strike attack, right? You don't want to give too much base strike, because if you go over that number, you're basically wasting Z abilities and stuff for that unit. So you kind of want to have a good high number of base and then a little bit of some pure, so then when you collide them together, it gives like a really, really like outstanding number, and you will see that unit either do a ton of damage in terms of strike blast, or tank a lot better in terms of strike defense and blast defense and everything. So basically that. So you kind of want, like I said, when you build a team, you want to have a decent amount of base. I'll say the number will be maybe like around that 140. So say for example for Cell, you kind of want to aim for that 140 in terms of base strike attack before you add any pures for the Cell, so you guys can actually see the damage and everything. So like with my team setup, Cell kind of gets around that 130 to 140 base strike attack. So that's why I was able to add like a pure, for example, on him. So now his strike attack is going to hit even harder, because I have like the good enough base on him, so I can add that pure to make him hit even harder and everything. So hopefully I kind of broke down the base side of things and the strike, and the pure side of things. Like I said, if you have any questions about that, comment down below, and then I can definitely be more specific about that and everything. So yeah, now we're going to get to the last part, and it's about certain teams, like team builders and everything. So although you can have a region tag, you can focus on different, we can build different types of region setups, right? You can have a team that's focused a ton on blast attack, right? You can have units that, like when you take a look at like Kid Buu, for example. Kid Buu is a range attacker. That means he does a lot more blast attack than strike attack. But then you have a unit like Cell, for example, that is a melee type that focuses more on strike attack than blast attack, right? So when you build a team, you know, like we're doing Regen, for example, you can build a team that's, you know, fully blast attack, where you have all units that's blast attack. You focus on Z abilities and Zenkai abilities that helps boost their equip that boost blast attack, so they can do a ton. You can focus on an all strike attack Regen team, where, like I said, it's kind of like the same thing as a blast attack, but it's for the strike attack side. Or you can just have it balanced. For me, I kind of have it at the balanced side, but you can make different types of a specific tag. You can do more on the blast side, you can do more on the strike side, you can do more of a balanced way. So I usually like to rock a balanced way because you know, that's the way I play, right? It's based off your play style. If you want to do a ton more strike, you can build an all strike based team on any tag that you're focusing on, or all blast based team for any tag you want to work on, or just make it balanced, right? So I like to make it balanced and everything. So now we can focus on two different types of teams that you can make in terms of a tag. I already kind of talked about like blast attack and that, but it's a little bit more different right here. So one, you have a full color wheel team. Now, a full color wheel team is basically where there's 5 different colors in the game that you can play for PvP. We're not going to talk about light and dark, but there's 5 main colors for PvP: green, blue, yellow, red, and purple. And they can all, and certain colors do more damage to each other than others. So say, for example, the color wheel goes: green does more damage to blue, blue does more damage to red, red does more damage to yellow, yellow does more damage to purple, and purple does more damage to green. But if you do the color wheel backwards, green does less damage to purple, purple does less damage to yellow, yellow does less damage to red, red does less damage to blue, blue does less damage to green, and then green does less damage to purple. I think I already said that twice. But basically there is a color wheel, right? So for this is kind of how you can build against other teams. So say, for example, you know that they have a very, very strong purple, you might want to have a strong yellow to counter them, right? That's kind of like a pro about having a full color wheel team, is because any color that they bring, you can counter that, because you have all 5 colors on your team, and you can counter any other color that the person is going to bring on the other side. Now, the downfall of it is you won't be able to have as much Z ability as more of a Zenkai buff setup and everything. So you guys see here, we have an all color, full color wheel team, which is pretty nice, because I can color any color that a unit other team might have. They might have, you know, an all blue color setup, right? I have that green for that. They might have like 2 very, very strong yellow units. I have a red for that, right? That's kind of the pro about a full color wheel team. But you know, the cons is it's not really over optimalized in the sense. It's not like you're focusing on like really 3 characters to do a ton of damage. You're kind of having, you know, for certain scenarios, different colors for certain teams and everything. But when we go to this next slide, this is kind of more on that Zenkai buff side. So here we don't have a full color wheel, but we are Zenkai buffing. We're over Zenkai buffing our main 3 units. Our main 3 units for this team is going to be Kid Buu, Ella, Piccolo, and then Perfect Form Cell. So you guys see there for the Zenkai abilities, at the bottom we have blue Piccolo, we have yellow DKP, and then we have purple 21. So we look at Piccolo's Zenkai ability, right? He buffs for his Z ability, Regen, Blast Attack, but then for his Zenkai ability, he's giving extra buffs to blue regeneration. So that means Kid Buu is getting a lot more Z abilities from Piccolo to himself, because he's getting that Zenkai ability and he's getting that Z ability. Same thing with yellow DKP. Yellow DKP does his regular Z ability does strike attack for regeneration, but his Zenkai ability does, you know, extra for yellow tag regeneration. So that means Piccolo is going to get that regular Z ability and that extra Zenkai ability. Purple 21 Z ability does health for androids and regeneration, and then her Zenkai ability does for purple androids. Cell is considered an android, right? You know, he's android and regeneration, and that's going to give him the extra Z ability for Cell. So that means this team is going to be having a lot more Zenkai abilities in general, but the cons about it is that it's easily for someone to counter this team, because they know that you're focusing on blue, yellow, and purple. Someone can look at your team and be like, all right, I'm gonna fully color counter him with a green unit to counter Kid Buu, a red unit to counter Piccolo, and a yellow unit to counter a yellow unit to counter cell. Now, although, like I said, that's the biggest con about it, but if you don't really have someone that color counters you, you know, they're going to get a lot more Zenkai buffs and everything, and they're going to do a lot more damage and tank better. So there's pros and cons for full color wheel and Zenkai buffs. Usually I like to go for full color wheel because I don't want to be predictable like this, because that's one of the biggest things about PvP is you don't want the enemy to be able to just color count you, because that can help them have increase their odds of winning if they color count every single one of your units that you bring in PvP. So yeah, I think this is it for the ultimate team building guide. I kind of talk about character tags, talk about the Z abilities, that, you know, the different Z abilities for attacks, strike attack, blast defense, strike defense, and then HP, and then there's extra other ones. Zenkai abilities, how it, you know, it focuses is more specific than Z abilities. So like for a certain color and a certain tag, like the Piccolo example. Then we have equipments, right? You know, equipments can, depending on what you build out of your equipment, you can make a unit even more tankier, tank more defense, like absorb more hits, or even do more damage. And then there's also other Z ability things that does like special move damage, health restoration, or ultimate damage, and all that other stuff, right? And then we talked about the leader slot thing, how a leader slot can help your team by bringing in a tag unit that doesn't really fit that tag, but it only works if you bring them as a battle member, because if you don't, it actually hurts your team. Then we also talk about base equips versus peer equips. You want to have a good number of base, then a little bit of some peer, so then you can make that unit either hit really hard or tank a lot more defense and everything, right? And then I kind of gave you an example of a full color wheel regen team right here, and then a Zenkai buff regen team right there, and talked about the pros and cons for each thing. So hopefully this team building guide helps out a ton. Like I said, if you have questions, comment down below, because I know this is going to be very, very confusing to a new player. I'll be definitely helping you guys out, and people in my community will help you guys out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys drop the sub, like, and turn on the notifications, bro. We're trying to hit 8K subs, so hopefully this video helped you guys out. This is it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and we're Gruff, man, and I'm out.